Imagine you're clocking out of work tonight, and you have two choices. Choice A, you go back home to your totally unremarkable life and eat a hamburger with your wife. Or choice B, you pull out the biggest bank heist in US history, outrun the FBI, and dodge Mexican hitmen. All because you have a crush on a girl at work. For an average security guard named David Gant, the choice was surprisingly easy. Welcome to our channel. If you like stories like this, subscribe and leave a like. It helps the channel grow. On October 4th, 1997, David stole over $17 million in cash, vanished off the face of Earth. But let me be very clear tonight. This wasn't Ocean's 11. These weren't criminal masterminds. This was a heist where literally everything went hilariously wrong. At 27 years old, David Gant's life was completely unremarkable. He lived in a rundown trailer park, he didn't really have friends, and he was trapped in a dead-end marriage. Every single day, he was surrounded by millions of dollars as an armed guard for Loomis Fargo. But he only made $8 an hour. No benefits, no pension. Everyone at work joked about robbing the place. Fantasies of life on the run felt like buying a winning lottery ticket. Fun to dream about, but never gonna happen until David got a call from his old crush. Her name was Kelly Campbell, former co-worker, bold, confident, and everything David's wife wasn't. David had a massive crush on her, and she knew it. Kelly told David she was broke, going through a messy divorce, and then dropped a bomb. She asked him, "How would you feel about robbing Loomis Fargo with me?" Kelly let out the plan. She had a childhood friend named Steve, who she claimed was a made man in the mob. The pitch was simple. David steals the cash from the vault, hands it off to Kelly and Steve. Steve cleans the money using mafia connection. Meanwhile, David escapes to Mexico with a fake ID. They wire him with cash, and he lives out his days sipping Patron on the beach. It sounded foolproof, but David was terrified. He wasn't a criminal, so Kelly pulled out her secret weapon and she kissed him. She promised she'd go to Mexico with him, she'd leave her husband, he'd leave his wife, they'd go together and be forever together. That single kiss selected the deal. David was going to throw away his entire life and become an international fugitive, all for a girl. Saturday, October 4th, 1997, David tells his wife he'll be home late, knowing he will literally never see her again. He walks into the vault, he looks at the security camera, and he looks at the cash, and he knows the second he touches that money, his old life is dead. 2 hours later, David has loaded 2,700 pounds of cash and literal ton of money into the back of Loomis' van. He locks the vault, steals a massive ring of 200 keys, jumps into the driver's seat, hits the gas, approaches the security gate, presses the clicker, and nothing happens. He planned this for weeks and forgot to buy AA batteries. For 30 minutes during a literal bank robbery, he fights with the door. Finally, one of Steve's goons forces it open. Phase 1 complete. David hands over the van, grabs 25 grand for himself, and Kelly drives him to the airport. Back in the parking lot, the goons have a problem. They need to move a ton of cash out of the van, but David locked it. He left them the ring of 200 keys and didn't tell them which one worked. For 20 minutes, they panic, they sweat, they try to break the bulletproof glass until finally, the very last key works. They stuff the cash into plastic barrels and tap them with a dog food. If cops pull them over, it's just dog food. Genius. Almost too genius. Meanwhile, David arrives at the airport. It's closed. Nobody checked the hours. Kelly buys him a bus ticket, kisses him goodbye, and abandons him. Back in North Carolina, the money arrives at Steve's trailer. They expected $5 million. They counted $14 million. Wait, didn't David steal 17? Yes, but in panic, he forgot $3 million sitting in the front seat of the van. Still, 14 millions is 14 millions. Steve tells everyone to lay low, no big purchases for a year. But here's the problem, Steve wasn't in the mafia. He was a small-time crook who watched Goodfellas too many times, and while everyone else had rules, Steve didn't follow them. The very next day, Steve, a man who lived in a trailer, buys a $635,000 mansion in a straight cash, unbounded, crystal chandeliers, a Robert E. Lee statue, a Velvet Elvis painting. Down in Cozumel, Mexico, David Gant was living the dream. Sort of python skin boots, a fake Rolex, he looked ridiculous. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., he called Kelly from a payphone, begging her to come. Every week she had an excuse. A month later, David was broke. Roach-infested motel, top ramen for dinner. He demanded his money. Callie panicked and Steve decided David was a liability. So Steve hired a hitman, an old army buddy named Bruno, for $250,000. Bruno would kill David in Mexico. One problem, Steve forgot to give him a picture. Bruno shows up and has no idea who David is. He gets bored and spends the money on tacos and clothes. Steve sends him back with a photo. They finally meet. David, who stole $17 million, is now begging for gas money. Bruno gives him $8 grand. David realizes the truth, calls Kelly, panics. This was Bruno's chance, but he didn't want to do it himself. So he hires a busboy named Roberto. $30,000 simple plan, buy beers, gain trust, kill him in an alley. One problem, it was Monday Night Football. David was a die-hard Steelers fan, and Roberto was also a Steelers fan. Wearing the same jersey, instant friendship, they drink, they watch the game, Steelers win, Roberto can't do it. He tells David the truth, watch your back, man. A football jersey saved his life. By New Year's, David was alone, eating peanut and M&Ms, staring at the wall, looking over his shoulders. But the FBI is closing in. Steve's wife makes one mistake. She deposits cash with a Loomis Fargo band, and game over. The FBI taps the phone, intercepts the Tuesday call. Here's the murder plot. They find David in Mexico at a hotel pool. When they grab him, he smiles. Please tell me you're the FBI. Waiting for his flight home, they ask one question. Did you ever sleep with Kelly? David looks down. No, I only kissed her once. Pretty expensive kiss. Everyone gets arrested. David gets 11 years. Today, he's free, remarried, driving a truck. He says it was the dumbest thing he ever did. But hey, they made a movie out of it. If you thought that was dumb, hit like. And if you want an even crazier Heist story, click the next video. I'll see you there.